I was invited and flown all the way out to LA to try out Battlefield 6 early, and as usual, huge thank you to EA for sponsoring this video and actually making this possible. And without further ado, let me just tell you guys off the rip that Battlefield is back. And I'm not talking about Battlefield 1, I'm not talking about Battlefield 5, I'm not even talking about Battlefield 2042. Battlefield 6 is not just a throwback, it's not just a call to the roots of Battlefield, to what made Battlefield great initially, as in, the golden days of Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3, and so on. It's actually iterating on what made Battlefield so great in the first place and improving it with modern tech, modern solutions, and more snappy, enjoyable gameplay loop, and where you have so many more tools at your disposal as well. So starting off, of course, we have seen a lot of Battlefield Labs. So back in 2042, they added this feature called Battlefield Labs where you could make your custom game modes. Now, this was a bit lackluster and it didn't really end up leading to any meaningful new content. That being in Battlefield 6, so Battlefield Labs is a lot more robust, and you can actually, for example, edit the maps and just make so many more changes that you couldn't in the prior iteration of it. So I'm expecting to see a lot more community custom content. And depending on how much we do cover Battlefield, we're probably going to end up making some pretty fun custom game modes or maps as well. In addition to that, the first things that I did notice when it put us in firing range and we got to test everything out is that, damn, this game feels snappy. It feels high quality. It feels really well thought out. Using weapons as somebody who just likes to shoot guns in video games feels amazing. The sound design is incredible. Not only does it sound immersive and just overall high quality,
We are targeting objective Delta.
but you can really pinpoint where the enemies are in the middle of any fight. You never really get caught off guard unless you weren't paying attention. And what I thought was really cool is that if you compare to certain games, we could kind of just hear straight from walls as if they are made out of paper. In Battlefield, the sound almost seems like it carries through the direction the sound is coming from. It was almost like I could hear that there is somebody outside of the window. I can't really tell from where. So it was very immersive when you were in the middle of the fight. And while you don't get that pinpoint audio that would give you a competitive edge, it still felt great and, again, very immersive. In addition to all this, the Battlefield devs have made a massive effort in quality of life things. There's a lot of small things they've been spending countless of hours on perfecting. The weapons, again, they feel great, but it's just small things. For example, the weapon apparently tilts slightly whenever the recoil starts kicking, and if you properly compensate for it, then the next recoil kick won't hit as hard, so it kind of trains the players to learn how to compensate for their own recoil better. They also spent a ton of time with heat maps and just analyzing every single piece of the game thanks to Battlefield Labs, which was sort of like an early access type of thing, which is also why you guys have probably seen a lot of leaks about the game beforehand. So obviously with the good comes some bad, but overall, thanks to the Battlefield Labs, they've been able to really fine-tune the experience, which leads us to a way more polished product than we saw with Battlefield 2042, which, it is a sponsored video, but I'm gonna have to say it was a bit underbaked. I enjoyed the jankiness of it. I loved the movement tech you could do, but eventually they patched it out. I kind of lost interest. I just liked a bit of depth. I do feel like Battlefield 6 has a lot more depth, and it's just a lot more enjoyable overall. It also just, again, feels like a way more finished and polished product. So when it comes to Infantry gameplay, that's what we're going to be focusing on today. There was a teaser about a Firestone game mode. That's like a BR game mode, and it's been a few game modes and that we didn't get to try. There's a lot of gadgets and weapons we didn't get a chance to try over here in LA, but we still get a good grasp of how the Infantry gameplay works, because that's what I love to do. I dropped a 52 kill game while only playing as Infantry, which I thought was pretty good. Might have been the first one for the game ever, if you don't count, I guess, playtests that I didn't play in. So first and foremost, they've completely revamped the movement system. Moving around in Battlefield 6 feels great. It's snappy. You have obviously vaulting. You can go prone. You kind of throw yourself on the ground in any direction that you want. So you can go for drop shots, or if you're getting absolutely lit up from a direction you weren't expecting, you can just drop to the floor immediately, and you're going to be lying there kind of readjusting yourself before you get healed up and can peek back. There's a lot of potential for movement that I haven't figured out yet. I could tell that you could bunny hop, and there was a little bit of momentum carry from it. You can slide and slide cancel, or at the very least slide at the end, or at the very least jump at the end of the slide. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be some ways we can chain these together to get some crazy movement, but I didn't really get a chance to experiment with it enough just yet. But I can tell you guys there's a lot of room, not just for high level movement tech, but also movement outplays and fun things like that. So we'll see just how crazy the player base gets with the next few minimum stack during these next few months. And also, shooting the guns in general as an infantry, it's just amazing. It feels absolutely awesome. The audio is great. They punch and just feels super immersive. To shoot, they're very satisfying to shoot as well. The time to kill is pretty fast. I ran the numbers. I was sitting in a spreadsheet the day prior to our playtest, just testing everything out. So in the playtest, I've been using the shotgun a lot because it one-shots up to 15 meters with a slug. I got to finally remake my sniper shotgun, which I ran all the time in Battlefield 3. Super happy that's back. But also, despite all rifles or most weapons having a about 0.25 second to 0.4 second time to kill, assuming you hit all the shots, nothing will ever beat one shot, which the slug shotgun lets you do. And I've been running assault, which gives you actually free gadget, where a weapon is a gadget, which means that I can have a assault rifle, a pistol, and a shotgun as a third weapon, which lets me kind of just cover all the different ranges. And hitting those one shots has been satisfying, and it's felt absolutely amazing. I can't wait to try out the other weapons that they have in store for us. That being said, of course, as any infantryman knows, as anyone who's played a lot of battlefields know, the fun always stops when the tanks show up, or the vehicles for that matter. What can we do against them? So from the little time I played, I noticed a few things that are extremely important to know for infantry enjoyers such as myself. First, obviously the strength of what you do will depend on the map, right? Like you try to use like a shotgun against a sniper, like a big open area, probably not gonna get value from it. And obviously that's not gonna do much against like a chopper or tank or whatever. But when a tank starts becoming a problem, when an enemy team picks a tank or a chopper or anything, you could just pick engineer. And nobody was really playing engineer during the playtest. I picked him up every once in a while just to deal with the problem and then switching right back. Because the engineer is really strong, at least in the playtest. You have, I believe it's 5 or 6 RPG shots per life that you can restock, which is more than enough to take out not just one tank, but you can take out an entire tank and then still have another 2 shots to go. If you can hit a chopper or a jet, that's just 1 RPG shot, and then you got, again, 4 or 5 to go. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I'm sitting in a booth here at the venue, so kind of just working with memory here. You have to excuse me if I get something wrong. As for the stinger, you also get about 4 or 5 stingers. You're basically guaranteed to take down 1 aircraft alive if you just keep spamming stinger shots at them and they stay within range. So it's extremely oppressive. Maybe it's even too strong, because one engineer being able to single-handedly take out 1 tank does not feel that good in the eyes of the vehicle players, I would assume. It kind of evens the playing ground, and if you look at other games like Battlefield 1, where tanks were super overpowered, I guess because, you know, historically they were, it just feels a lot better. I don't like when games have that one thing that, you know, when I think pulls up, the game just doesn't feel fun for anyone else anymore, except the person using that thing. In this case, that would be tanks. I'm really glad that engineers are strong. Maybe just a little bit too strong, but we'll see where we end up once the game fully releases or when the beta starts. And speaking of which, they did mention this in the trailer, I believe, that there will be a closed beta and an open beta coming out very soon, and you do not need to pre-order. I know a lot of you guys talked about, oh, you have no pre-orders, you know, we're not doing that anymore. I mean, I would pre-order it because I think the game is great, but absolutely, you don't have to pre-order it. Just go play the alpha, see what you think, and if it's good, you can pre-order it. It's great. You usually don't have to buy it later. But Battlefield 6 as a whole really brings back the feel of Battlefield. We're also getting certain maps coming back. For example, Operation Firestorm is coming back. I don't think I've seen that since Battlefield 3, so I'm super excited to be getting back into the fields. I've also been speaking with devs and control players, and it seems to be a fair attempt of balancing inputs. You guys know me. I've always been a little bit worried of the direction where aim assist is going, and we have a big title like Battlefield. This is kind of a make or break it game for them. With a huge effort, they want to get 100 million players. You would imagine that it would pull out all the stops in getting as many controller players onboarded as possible. But I spoke to one dev and I asked, oh yeah, like what's the aim assist situation like? Is it like Apex? And he kind of just he laughed a little bit. He said, no, it's not like Apex at all. So what we're getting is gyro aim from the start. And there's also this really cool feature where you can turn around 90 degrees with a press of a button, which will help those control players that cannot turn around. I don't know how strong the aim assist is myself. I don't think there's any rotational aim assist. It might be like a weak one, not entirely sure. But from what I've gathered, there's a lot of Warzone streamers here that do play in controller. They say it's a lot weaker than Warzone, so there's a lot more balance. When I played the game myself, I never felt like I got absolutely demolished by someone on controller. The playing ground seemed pretty even. It was pretty much a matter of whoever caught the other one off guard or got the timing or the angle more than anything. That's also because of the time to kill more so than anything else. So I'm really excited about that, and I really hope that they finally nail the inputs where you don't feel like you have to play one or the other. I'm not even necessarily advocating for mouse and keyboard here as a mouse and keyboard player. I just think that you shouldn't feel like you have to switch your input just to play the game and have a competitive edge, or rather have a shot to play the game in the first place, like in Apex. I really like the loadout building. I think in general, when it comes to loadouts, there's been this whole discussion about open kits versus closed kits. Like, okay, are you supposed to be able to use all the weapons, or are you going to be locked to certain classes? I know a lot of people love closed classes. Personally, because I play with open here in LA, I actually prefer open classes because I can play the class I want, and then I can pick whatever weapon I want. I like the B36 a lot, so I've just been running that on every class. It's like, okay, I need, for example, let's say I have to swap to an engineer. I don't want to lose my B36. I just swap the engineer, I deal with the tank, and then I can keep playing and eventually get back on assault where I can start shotgunning again, for example. I do see why people would like the closed kit, and as I recall, there's going to be 2 separate playlists, one for like open kits and one for closed kits, so we can try it out, and I guess maybe they'll decide on which one to go with once the game comes out. We're just gonna have to wait and see, but the option will be there no matter how you want to run it. As for the map destruction, this is going to be controversial because I do think they've made a bit of a mistake here. They've been kind of overplaying the cards a little bit. I think that the destruction is well balanced. You can you have the tactical destructions, you can make like holes in walls, and you can force new angles. Blow people, like if somebody's holding a high ground, you can kind of break the floor from underneath them or something like that. You can do all that. They're talking about it, and I think they're showing in the trailers. The problem is with the amount of hype for destruction, you would kind of get an idea of, oh yeah, we can just like destroy an entire map. We could turn it into like a pile of rubble, like in the finals. You cannot do that. You can destroy a lot of buildings, you can destroy a lot of walls, but there's a lot of things that you cannot touch. Some of them felt a bit silly. There was this one wooden railing I couldn't break, so I couldn't climb onto a high ground I wanted to get to. But you have to keep in mind that with the amount of effort they've spent in building these maps, they've probably realized that, okay, the game doesn't flow that well if there's no map to play. If it's just a big open field, it's not really going to be that fun to play for most players. And it just always devolves into the same thing, which kind of happened in the finals. So personally, I do like the balance they've struck with what you can destroy and what you can't destroy. It's just not really potentially what you guys might expect, where you could level an entire city. You cannot do that. I'm just setting the expectations here beforehand. And just a few cons that I noticed from the playtest that bothered me, probably might bother some of you guys, and there are also things that might end up being fixed by the time that it was released. Just for the sake of transparency, I did want to mention them. Snipers felt kind of oppressive if you play against a really good sniper, which you're going to at an event. If they have really good angles, there's not much counterplay you can do. They pretty much single-handedly lock down the entire angle. If you peek them, they can one-shot you easily. Most weapons, because of how recoil works in this game, by the way, you can't really control the recoil by just pulling down. There's a lot of factors. There's suppression, there's the handling of your weapon, your current loadout and whatnot, that stops you from being able to out DPS somebody with just a sniper who can one-shot you in the head. But overall, there's not, in my opinion, overall, it didn't seem to be like any real counterplay to snipers other than just staying out of their way. But what happens is when you have a lot of snipers that are good at what they're doing, they can lock down like most of a map or most angles, and suddenly you cannot play the flanks, so you're kind of stuck into just fighting whatever is in front of you, and you're always going to be suppressed by the threat of the looming threat of the sniper kind of being hanging above you, which just doesn't feel that good. Now, there were a lot of gadgets and tools we didn't get to try out here in LA, so there's a good chance that there are good solutions out there I didn't try. But with the weapons I played and with the loadouts I had, the gadgets I had, I didn't have a clear answer. And I'm gonna be honest, it felt really bad when we were defending on one point and they were just sitting up on the cliffs and we couldn't even get to the point. Now, they had so many snipers that they didn't get to the point and they lost the game, but we couldn't get to the point ourselves because we're just holding down. It was like, no, it's a big open field and we couldn't get to the point to actually defend it ourselves or like take any good angles. So I did not feel good, but again, hopefully that's something that will be changed. Additionally, building off of that, again, mid to very long range feels horrible with most weapons. If you have a DMR, if you have a sniper, it's fine. Maybe this is an intentional design choice to give snipers a little bit of power, but if you run an AR, you try to space a really long range, it just starts swaying, the recoil gets away from you, there's some random bloom as well. It's not like Counter-Strike where you just kind of pull down, it's going to be pixel perfect, or Apex, so you don't really have that same skill expression in recoil control. But at the same time, you know, at the very least, it's going to be harder for cheaters to use macros, so you know, there's some pros and there are some cons. And then finally, just a small thing for myself, not a big fan of how they apply automatic markers on enemies when you're shooting them. When you take a fight with somebody, you basically become marked for their entire team, which means you're fighting one guy and suddenly everyone knows where you are and they're gonna probably turn and shoot you. So pulling off flanks, pulling off weird angles or like dark corners or something is just not as good as you would hope. But that's just something for me. Maybe there's some type of hardcore mode or something that doesn't have these markers that makes it all okay. If not, we can always sort it out in labs, I'm sure. But overall, when you really tally the pros and cons against each other, it's easy to see that these are just small things that might not even matter at the end of the day. It might just be something that I didn't like personally. I just wanted to mention it. Overall, again, the game is amazing. You can tell that EA really cares about this one, and they are very, very passionate about getting it out to as many people as possible. There's this massive event in LA. They're bringing a lot of creators in so we can cover the game and actually just show how much better this iteration of Battlefield is versus battlefields that we've seen in the past. And really excited to be streaming this. I'm literally just about to hop onto my stream and get started. Is about to send this to my editor. You can probably even hear the voice in background there. So I'm really excited to get playing again. I have about 4 hours of streams today. Here's what you guys think about the game so far or from the gameplay that you've seen. Thanks for watching and see you all next time.